How's it going, everybody? Bryan Alvarez here on Wrestling Observer Live. We are here every day, Monday through Friday, noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, Sunday, 3 Pacific, 6 Eastern. Well, I am here today, and I am in lovely San Jose, California, in a, it's actually kind of a cheap hotel room here, but it's awesome because I'm all wired up and ready to go. We got a landline, a hardwire connection right here. We've got great internet. And so we are rocking today on Observer Live, and Mike Sempervive will be joining us as well. And we got a lot to get into because we have got the Rampage tapings here tonight, which I will be going to along with producer Dom. And then tomorrow we will be at Dave's house watching the UFC pay-per-view, the return of John Jones after 3 years for an immediate title shot. And then on Sunday, it is the AEW Revolution pay-per-view. I have 8 matches announced for the show, one of which is a 1-hour Iron Man match. And there will be more matches added at the Rampage show tonight, but they will be dark matches. It looks like this is the full lineup for the pay-per-view itself. And so we'll go over the lineup for that. We got Dynamite ratings from this past Wednesday night, the go-home show. We have got more media notes from different talent talking about this and that. Chris Jericho talking about building stars. And Bryan Danielson talking about his favorite moment of his WWE career, which sure is ironic after that Montreal show a couple of weeks ago. We've got notes on the AEW debut of Commander Eddie Kingston, who allegedly quit AEW, but of course he is not. He is going to Ring of Honor. And we're going to take your text messages as well. 425-780-7566. That is 425-780-7566. Brian at WrestlingObserver.com, at Bryan Alvarez on Twitter. Hadn't thought about this, but maybe we'll take some phone calls here today. Yeah, because I forgot I can do it through Byline. Yeah, back in a moment, Observer Live.
I will, one, congratulate Cody on going through what he did for all of us, for this industry, for himself. I know what that's like. I've been in that spot, unfortunately, a few different times, and I can admire what goes into it. And for him to be able to turn that around and come back tonight and do what he did is amazing in and of itself. So congratulations to him, punching his ticket, like he said, something that no one else in his family has been able to do, but punching that ticket to the main event at WrestleMania, having that moment to be out there, stand in front of that, incredible crowd, and do what everybody dreams of, because I believe that the people that make fun of it are the people that believe that they'll never get the chance to do it. And that has pointed that sign that says you are going to WrestleMania in the main event. That's an amazing accomplishment after such an incredible setback. And for what Cody said here, I can't help it, but when I look at him, I do see his dad. I look in his eyes and I see his dad's eyes. I see Dusty, but I see all the best things of Dusty, and then I see something more in Cody. So it's not about comparing him. I just see the greatness of his dad amplified in his dad's son, and that's something special. He's a special talent, a special human being, and I'm very proud of him for that. So
I'm sure he heard that, and I've watched everything that Roman's done. I have nothing though but respect, and I mean the scene there at the end of the night's a pretty rough scene, but I have nothing but respect and reverence for Roman. You guys cover this industry, you cover sports entertainment, you cover pro wrestling. Guys, I can't tell you I'm the best wrestler in the world. Nobody can, unless their name is Roman Reigns. That's the best wrestler in the world. I'd like to think I'm number 2, right? and I always say that's number 3, whatever. This is making lists is a disaster. Don't take my list that serious. But Roman is undisputed. That's just the best way to put it. He's undisputed, and you know, if that is the situation we're walking into in 60-something days of WrestleMania, I can't shrivel under the lights. He's been there before. I haven't, and that's going to take a lot of. It's going to take everything I could possibly ever muster up and everything I have, but got to finish the story.
Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. Yeah, we're here getting ready for Rampage tonight. Dom and I heading to the show. Mike apparently is not going. Is that right, Mike? Not going to Rampage tonight?
No, my plane ticket didn't come in time, so I'm remaining here 3,000 miles away, literally.
Well, we have a big show coming up tonight. We got a big show coming up on Sunday. We got all the pay-per-view matches, I believe, because Tony pretty much said, you know, we got a lot of stuff here, including an hour-long Iron Man. I don't think we really need to maybe add too much more to the pay-per-view itself. So 8 matches. MJF and Bryan Danielson will be an hour, 1-hour Iron Man match for the AEW title. We have the Guns, the Acclaimed, Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett, and Orange Cassidy and Danhausen, all facing off in a 4-way for the tag team titles. Jon Moxley faces Hangman Page. In what I can't help but notice in both of their promos, I don't think they actually called it a Texas Death Match. They merely called it Texas Death. Well, you've got Samoa Joe and Wardlow for the TNT title. Chris Jericho versus Ricky Starks. Jamie Hayter, Saraya, and Ruby Soho in a 3-way for the women's title. The Elite will be facing the House of Black for the trios titles. And Christian Cage will be facing Jungle Boy, Jack Perry in a fight. That is the lineup for the pay-per-view Sunday. Tonight on Rampage, I'm sure we'll add some dark matches, some non-televised matches, but that is what we're looking at for Sunday. And looking at the show, I mean, MJF and Danielson, I'd be stunned if that were a bad match. Samoa Joe and Wardlow, I mean, you know, it's Samoa Joe, and if they do a Goldberg-style boom, 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 I mean, that should be fun. Moxley and Adam Page can't possibly be bad. And then, you know, Jericho and Starks should be very good. The Elite and the House of Black should be great. Christian and Jungle Boy, I mean, overall, I think this is one of those shows, you know, I talked to people yesterday, they were like, yeah, I'm going to watch the show, but I'm not really feeling it like I have in the past. And, you know, I think at the end of the day, it's probably going to end up being a pretty damn great show. So, hopefully it is, because I'm going to be there. I don't like going to bad shows, Mike. I only like going to the best.
I know it, and I don't think you're going to have an issue here, too, when it comes to the match quality, because, look, even if you didn't like the build to all of these matches, even if you think the product right now is in a little bit of a malaise or whatever you think about AEW, when you look at the matches and you figure, okay, unless there's some nonsense involved with the finishes or something, how can they not all be good? I mean, yes, the women's 3-way is probably arguably the weakest of the bunch, but when you look at all the other matches, as you mentioned, I mean, everything looks pretty good. The 4-way tag is probably going to be a little bit all over the place, and I do wonder, I mean, who the hell knows with FTR, but I wonder if something comes at the end of that. But all of the other one-on-one matchups, there's something to like about almost all of them.
So obviously the big match is the Iron Man match, and, you know, these guys both, you know, Bryan Danielson talked about it yesterday, you know. I've talked to people who have been in the ring with him of late, and they just say, man, this guy is a machine. He is an unstoppable machine. So I'm certainly not worried about him. And as far as MJF goes, I mean, he's told people that he's never been in better shape for a match in his life. So, you know, he's done just like a ton of training. And, you know, they do the deal where, you know, sometimes he's on the show, sometimes he's not. They say he's contractually obligated. I mean, there were weeks where he wasn't on the show. He was home training. So I don't think there's going to be any issues with cardio. And, the reality in a long match like that, and really any wrestling match, is, it's professional wrestling. There's the illusory aspect to it in the sense that, you're not doing an MMA fight for an hour. You're doing a pro wrestling match. And you can pace the match, and you can do, periods where things slow down a little, and you can work the physical aspect of it to a degree. You obviously have to be in really good shape, but this is a little different in the sense that it is Bryan Danielson, and this guy's got a few speeds, but he likes to go at one speed. So I think it's going to be a very, very active 1 hour match. I think there's going to be a lot of twists and turns. And the big question is what they do at the finish, because I don't see Bryan Danielson leaving with that title. But I suppose anything is possible.
And more than the one speed is the amount of experience that he has. Number one, there's not going to be a lot of spots to remember going into the thing, I wouldn't think, at least. And even if there were, you have somebody where if you do get confused, if you do get flustered for a moment, he can slow things down. So it is very difficult, again, unless something bizarre happens where this won't be. And I know an hour, we've talked about it with Ring of Honor matches in the past where it's like, is it a good idea to tell people that it's going 60? In this case with MJF and Bryan Danielson, I think there's going to be a lot to be, seen as far as the story that's told and how they bring you up and down throughout the whole thing. I'm really looking forward to this.
All righty. Well, the rating for the show on Wednesday was not 1 million. So you know what that meant on Twitter. 833,000 viewers, down 19% from last week. Second lowest audience for the show since November 16. 0.27 demo, down 22.9%. Match is Dynamite's second lowest rating in the demo so far in 2023. Down in every demo. And obviously, one of the things with AEW is competition. And there were 2 NBA games on ESPN, and those 2 games beat AEW. They did finish third on cable with that 0.27 rating. And, they've done many go-home shows where they didn't do a great number on the go-home show. Obviously, you would want to, but, whether it's WWE or AEW or SmackDown, Raw, whatever, I mean, there has never really been and actually the same thing with UFC as well. When they used to do those countdown specials, there really is no correlation between the rating for the go-home show and how the show does on pay-per-view. So obviously you would want a better number, but when they have strong competition, which NBA obviously was because they took the top 2 spots, it does affect the Dynamite numbers. Is this show dying? Is this a horrible number? Of course not. We mention this every week. And I was looking through, Brendan Thurston puts out the numbers for the other shows we don't really talk about a lot, like New Japan on Access and Impact. And did you see the demos for those 2 shows yesterday, Mike?
I saw the overall numbers, but not the demos.
Okay,
no.
This is not meant to be a burial. I just am doing this to kind of point things out. New Japan on Access, in 18 to 49, did a 0.00. They did 0, nothing, zilch. They had 5,000 viewers in 18 to 49, which came out to a 0.00. And Impact did a 0.01. Okay? So, again, this is not to bury the New Japan or Impact. It is merely pointing out that when you have a show like, Dynamite, and it does a 0.27 and ends up third on cable, and then you hear people go, this show is dying. It's doing terrible. Yeah, it was doing better last year at this time, but this is not a bad number at all. And then when you look at like these SmackDown demos, when SmackDown does like a 0.63 and smashes everything else on cable and everything else on network, and you look at the Raw demos. I mean, I did an interview. I can't remember what it was about, but they ended. They go, "Is there anything else you want to say to people that don't know much about wrestling?" And what I said was, this ain't the '80s where everyone knows Hulk Hogan's name and everything, or the '90s boom period. But dude, wrestling is actually very hot in 2023. You wouldn't know that going on Twitter, but it is. Anyway, back in a moment with more Observer Live.
All right, so here we go. Question number 1. What is something outside of wrestling that you are a big fan of?
Soccer. I love watching. I've been watching soccer. Well, I started soccer when I was 3, so I was like 15, 16. And that's also like my mom, she made sure that I grew up with women's soccer. So like women leaders, women like motivational people and stuff like that. So I watch soccer a lot.
Question number 2. What is something besides wrestling that you're really good at?
Maybe like being on my phone. I'm really good at that. Sleeping. I can sleep in most places, okay?
Question number 3. What is your favorite TV show or movie?
Ooh, movie The Last Song. And then, yeah, it's old but a good one.
Yeah.
And show, right now I'm really into Dynasty. It's like a reboot. Have you seen it?
I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it. But I did watch The Last Song, cried my eyes out to it.
Yes, me too. Yeah, so Dynasty is definitely one of those.
Awesome. And question number 4, who are your favorite singers or bands?
Rebelde. Do you watch?
Oh my gosh, they were so popular back in the day, and I heard they're making a comeback.
I'm going to every single concert in Texas, by the way. Yes, I'm so excited. I need to get my uniform ready.
Question number 5, favorite places that you have traveled to and places you want to travel to.
Ooh, I love Cali. And I'm not just saying that because I'm here. Like, I really do love Cali. There's, like, a lot to do here.
Right. Question number 6, who is your biggest inspiration?
Oh, I feel like there's, like, multiple people. There's not, like, just one person. But I know growing up, like, Alex Morgan, she's, like, a soccer player. She was, like, one of my inspirations. Trish Stratus is, like, the reason I got into wrestling. When I was, like, 5 years old, like, that's who I would watch all the time. And the Four Horsewomen, of course, AJ Lee, those are definitely, like, my top ones.
Number 7, what's the craziest thing that you've ever done?
I feel like wrestling's pretty crazy, honestly.
Question number 8, favorite Mexican candy?
Mazapanes. Yes. I'm, like, obsessed with those. But the ones that are, like, covered in chocolate.
Ooh,
yeah.
Favorite Mexican dish?
So hard.
No.
I'm going to go with chilaquiles. Have you tried them?
Girl, are you kidding me? Chilaquiles are my life. When you said mazapanes, I was like, yep, she knows what's up. Then you said chilaquiles, and I'm like, I get them everywhere with beans and eggs.
Yes. Oh, my God. It's so good. And sometimes I add chicken in there, too.
Yes. Oh, my God.
Okay, now I'm hungry.
Question number 10, last one. What makes you happiest?
When others are happy.
Nice.
Yeah. I know that's so cheesy, but when others are happy, I'm just like, it just brings like this emotion in me. And it's ever since I was younger too, like in Christmas, I didn't care what I got. Like as long as like people around me were happy with what they got, that's just what mattered to me.
Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. We're going over these lineups, and, a while ago, they did that angle with Jericho and Ricky Starks, and it was about a week ago. I think that Ricky thinks he's outsmarted Jericho, but, he's going to get it. And my theory was, that Jericho had stated nobody from the Jericho Appreciation Society can intervene in the match or whatever. Who's not part of that Jericho Appreciation Society is old Hobbs. And he had a lot of issues with old Ricky Starks.
Yeah.
Maybe he's going to run in. But then they did all that stuff with Hobbs on on Wednesday. And then, Jericho did an interview talking about on the Click podcast, where he was talking about various folks. And, by the time it was done, and I actually thought this before I even saw this interview. I thought about this when we were reviewing the show yesterday with Vinny. I think there's a decent chance Ricky Starks beats him again. And, he's had feuds with various guys. He mentions here he's never got his win back against Action Andretti. And he literally goes as far as to say, I am telling you, I will never beat Action Andretti. Like, he's telling us that's never going to happen. And, he lost the feud, so to speak, with Orange Cassidy. And I think there's unless they have some sort of a big angle here with Ricky Starks, where something's going to happen and Ricky is you could do a deal. You could do a deal where Hobbs does cost Ricky the match. Hobbs then goes on to win the TNT title. And then Ricky, as a result of what happened losing to Jericho, does go on to eventually beat Hobbs for the TNT title. You could actually do something like that. But, Jericho says, my number one mission from day one when we started was to do my best to make new stars. Because at first I think the company was on my back. I knew you've only got about a month or two. It can't always be Chris Jericho. Cody Rhodes right out of the gate. He was not the Cody he is now. Mox was still Dean Ambrose. Nobody knew Kenny Omega. Nobody knew the Bucks, Darby, Scorpio, Jungle Boy Ortiz, Santana, Sammy, Jake, and all these guys. The first 3 months, I worked with all of them. We had a short window of time to make as many stars as we could. That's always been my goal. Ricky Starks is another guy. People love him. All he needed was a story. He needed to be on TV featured every week, and that's sort of what we've done. Talks about MJF. He says MJF was not the MJF he is now. Working with me for a year helped him become the MJF. Got him to the next level. All of that was done by design in my head. He responded to detractors online who said that he buries his opponents and the talent he works with. He used his match against Peter Avalon this week on Dynamite as an example. He says, I have the thickest of skins. I know people hate me. I got yelled at last night for beating a young talent like Peter Avalon. How did I bury the young talent of Peter Avalon? What happened in that match? Watch the match. 2 minutes long. Peter beat the crap out of me for 1 minute and 59 seconds. I hit one move. One move. I have never buried anybody in my career ever. Now, sometimes I win. That's okay. I'm allowed to win, guys. It's okay. Making new stars and putting people over is not wins and losses. You can lose to somebody and bury them at the same time. It happened to me in WCW a lot of different times. Then he tells a story about Action Andretti that we talked about on the show here many times. But were there really people on the internet that were angry that he beat Peter Avalon on Wednesday night?
Wow. There may have been one or two of them, Brian, but you know what? I've always appreciated Chris Jericho's pettiness. I remember way, way back, and this is going back a long time, I believe it was the late 90s, Wade Keller, I think, wrote something at the Pro Wrestling Torch, and Jericho responded to it, and I was not big online until the mid-2000s. So I remember just thinking of that going, I wonder why he cares so much. And then it's just because he hears everything. And he probably, look, there's pros and cons to this. Guys like Chris Jericho only need a little bit. And they can take that little bit that they gave you, that you give him, and then take it and run with it. And then make it work for him somehow or use it as fuel. And that's what I'm sure he's doing when it comes to Avalon, is using that as a bigger talking point to get back at people that may have talked about him burying people or how he works with people, in other times. But to cut all of the fat out of that and to take it back to Ricky Starks, he's right. All Ricky Starks needed was a story and to be on TV every week. And you know what Chris Jericho doesn't need? A win over Ricky Starks. You already got a loss to him. You beat him down. That was your revenge. Let Starks get the victory. This company needs stars. This company needs as many names as it can get. Ricky Starks right now is something you need to actually strike upon. So great. Beat Chris Jericho, move him onto something else where he's a regular and involved and towards the top of the mix.
I vaguely remember, and someone could actually fill us in on this Jericho Wade Keller thing. But if I recall correctly, it was a Chris Jericho Rob Van Dam match. There might have been another one, but this is the one I seem to remember. Chris Jericho had a match with Rob Van Dam, and Wade buried this match. And he gave it, I can't even remember what he gave it, but it will just say no stars or a negative star. I don't know what he gave it, but it was like a horrible rating. And, Jericho was very upset about that because it was not a dud. And I realize everything is subjective, but, brother, I've seen a lot of dud matches, and it was not a dud match. And then, I went through and, okay, what did Dave give this match? What did I give this match? And then I looked at the online reaction to people of this match, and it was like everybody thought this was a good match. Everybody did,
except for one guy.
And there was one guy, and it wasn't even like he thought it wasn't a very good match, but he was like, it was a horrible match. It was a dud.
Hey.
And so, yeah, come on, brother.
We see it with movies all the time where you look back and there were 900 critics love it, but these couple notable critics, they pan the movie for whatever reason, or the album or whatever it is.
Yeah, they should be moved from the Motion Picture Association of America.
Because it's all subjective.
Just like judges should be removed from judging if you're a horrible judge.
But you know what? He could have just said, you know what? Alvarez liked it. Meltzer liked it. Mitchell, whoever was around at the time, Johnson, whoever liked the thing, I could have blown off weight, but he didn't. And he ended up taking that and he blew it up, kind of maybe blew it out of proportion, but then used the publicity of that and used that, again, to his advantage. So, again, I think Chris Jericho was probably talking to a lot of people, and I think probably used that Avalon example that nobody of value probably said a word about, and then used that as fodder for other things.
Well, we had that Sami Zayn deal. He didn't win in Montreal. And then, we had all these discussions about Kofi Mania and all this and that. And Bryan Danielson, in an interview with The Ringer, said his favorite part of his WWE career was Kofi Mania and his match with Kofi Kingston at WrestleMania 35. He talked about his environmentally sustainable title belt, Kingston riding a wave of fan support, culminating in him beating Danielson for the title. The whole thing was magic, he says. You look at the live events, like the number of shows he did for WWE, the amount of TV time he filled in every time, going out there, always having a positive attitude. What a great human being. It was my favorite match. I think the whole thing was my favorite part of my WWE career. And then, of course, it talks about how he held the title for 6 months, defended it 10 times, and then, of course, was beaten by Brock Lesnar. And, it is funny because I think it was last week on SmackDown. They did that angle. And LA Knight comes out, and he's going back and forth with Kofi. And LA Knight, he's like, you can't have an LA or WrestleMania without LA Knight. And, of course, the New Day come out, and they're like, actually, you can. Like, nobody would care. And then LA Knight's big comeback is, how'd that Kofi Mania work out for you? And Kofi looks at him, and his response was, bro, it worked out great. It worked out great.
Yeah.
And the thing with Kofi Mania is, and this is the exact same thing that I said about Sammy. Oh, well, what if Sammy then loses in 3 weeks, or, Roman beats him again, or he just loses? Bros, don't fixate on Kofi's 7-second loss to Brock Lesnar and then act like the whole thing sucked. Dude, the build to Kofi Mania, the actual win at WrestleMania, it was actually great. Yeah, did they book a stupid ending at the very end of it? Yeah. Does that devalue all of it? No. I mean, if that's the way you're going to look at your life, oh, well, I had a great life, but at the end I died. So what, you had a horrible life? No, that's just something happened at the end of it. So anyway, I loved Kofi Mania. I love Kofi. Glad he got that build and that moment and the whole 9 yards. Yeah. Don't let me sit there on my deathbed and go, I'm dying here in the end. What a horrible life I led. 'Cause at the end, I was booked to die.
You don't seem like a nihilist like that, but
No, but we have all these nihilists. Oh, Kofi Mania, God. You really want to do Kofi Mania with Sammy? Yes! Actually, I do.
Imagine if Daniel Bryan had not gotten hurt. Remember what happened after all of the stuff with the Yes Movement? I believe Kane crushed him with pallets that had kegs on it or something. Remember we were moving into that
It
and he
was
ended up getting
stupid.
hurt? Exactly. Imagine if they would have went through with that. He loses the title to Kane at that time. Would it have taken away everything else? It would not have. With that said, they still rate the right move with Cody.
Oh, get out of here, you idiot. Back in a moment, Observer Live.
Tell us about the atmosphere and what it's like.
It's amazing. It's another company like full of women who are so supportive of each other. The locker room's great as well. I was brought in by AJ, who like growing up, like she was one of those people that looked like me, you know, like Hispanic. She was like smaller than the rest of the girls. So that was like very motivational. So for her to like bring me in a wow, and she's like my mother there. She gives like the best advice, and like I can always like message her and be like, hey, like, what did you think about this match? Like, how did I do? And she's amazing. When they say like never meet your idols because you know you might be disappointed, with her it was like the opposite. Like she was so nice, and all the girls are amazing too. I think now that they have this contract with like CBS, it's like bigger and it's better. I feel like these seasons are like the best ones yet, so I'm excited for like everyone to watch it. I want to say the biggest advice she's given me, and I think this is just like in life in general, like the energy you put out is the energy you will receive. So always like be nice to others, and like I think that's just what I apply in everything. So that's kind of what I learned from her. It helped out a lot, especially because I was so new and I didn't really know how to work cameras or how TV worked, and to be in that environment and also learn from, like, they have so many legends back there that you can like ask, and they're so helpful. Shout out to Jerry Lynn, Dustin Rhodes, like those two like are incredible. They're so helpful with the talents, and I am so grateful that I've met them. But yeah, so being able to learn from them, and also like learning from like your mistakes, like watching yourself back and how you can like improve like on TV and stuff like that, it honestly helped me out a lot, especially my career too, because I feel like I got a lot of bookings from that. So shout out to AEW Dark. Ooh, I would love to say Serena Deeb. She's so knowledgeable. She's so good in the ring. And even I had a one-on-one with her outside of AEW, and she's amazing. It was like a clinic, literally, like learning from her. Like being in the ring from her was like a clinic, honestly.
Yes.
I didn't get to tell Becky this, but I wrote her like a DM like before I started training. It's like a long DM, like how like she inspired me and everything. And at the end, I was like, one day I will wrestle for WWE. So after my match with Tamina, she came up to me and hugged me and was like, "That you did really good." And I cried, like I bawled, and she's like, "Yeah, let it out." Like she was so nice, and I just could not talk, honestly. I was like so like overwhelmed with the match itself, and then like her coming up to me, and like the girls were so nice, like Nikki Cross, like Bianca, like everyone was so nice. So I'm so grateful for that opportunity, honestly. Like that is probably like the best moment of my career, because that's what I've been wanting to do since I was 5, and the fact that I got to do that, it was incredible.
Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also WrestlingObserver.com. Well, I love old Lenny here. He's a very, very loyal listener. He's always in the chat. But, man, he will not give up on this thing about WWE does not deserve the benefit of the doubt. Because of what they did with Kofi, they do not deserve any benefit of the doubt.
Well, is that referring to, what is that referring to now?
Well, you know, it's kind of like they should not have put the title on Sammy, because they would have invariably screwed it up, because they screwed it up with Kofi. And
well, you can make that same claim then for Cody immediately then.
Listen, everybody. Mike, I mean...
But here's no.
No, wait. Let me just give my analogy.
As far as
because
like,
I asked
making
him
a mistake with Cody.
Hold on. This has nothing to do with that. It's different.
Okay, good.
Let's say we always have producer Dom here on the show. Okay, producer Dom.
Yes.
It was not on the show today, by the way. But
No. Hi, Daniel.
yes. So producer Dom, let's imagine that producer Dom was horrible at his job. He sucked. Mm-hmm. And like there was some screw up all the time. And he messes this up and he messes that up. And he screws this up and he screws that up. And then one day he gets fired. And old Daniel takes his job. And Daniel's never done the job. Daniel's worked for the station or whatever, but he's never done the job. And then, he gets a job, and I'm just like, I cannot give Daniel the benefit of the doubt. Because Dom did such a horrible job, Daniel is invariably going to be doing a horrible job. I cannot trust him. I just can't do this show anymore. I quit. All right, that's what we're talking about here. Like, I wanted to know, I don't need to know exactly what Lenny does for a living, but I was trying to get, like, what's your job, okay? Because let's imagine that you apply for a job and you get the job and you replace somebody that did a horrible job, but once you get that job, like, nobody trusts you, nobody thinks, like, no one wants to, they just, whatever happened with the old guy, they project all of that onto you. How would that be fair? It's not fair. You cannot say Vince screwed up Kofi Mania. Therefore, Hunter is not allowed to have Sami Zayn win the championship in Montreal because he would invariably screw it up. The company deserves no benefit of the doubt, even though there is a totally new guy booking the show. How is that fair? It's exactly like Impact. Like, Vinny does this with Impact. I will not watch Impact. Impact was horrible for so many years. I will not watch it. Why? Because of what happened with Dixie when somebody else ran it?
Yeah, but Brian, you also are taking out a human factor of this. And the fact of, at some point, okay, we've changed it. Okay, we'll see what's different. Okay, we changed it. Now let's see what's it. And you live through. And then at some point you just go, I don't care. And that's where Vinny's at with Impact. And
that's fine.
And you know what? To this man, who was it now in here? Was it Lenny? To Lenny, he may have thrown his hands up and go, you know what? Prove to me Vince isn't there. Prove to me, and you know what? It's going to take some time to prove to that consumer who obviously is still paying attention that, hey, we have changed. But yes, you're exactly right. I agree with you as well, because who's to say that, okay, they belt up Sammy, they don't screw it up? Who's to say they don't belt up Cody at Mania and then they screw up the follow-up? The screw-ups can happen. I have more faith right now in what's gone on with WWE than I have at any point in the last, how many years are we going to go back? How many times have they done things and screwed it up? How many push-pulls and all this stuff with Vince? All this stuff. Right now, it's been the best. Could that just be because we've been in this post-Vince era and the newness hasn't worn off and we're in WrestleMania season and everything is broken right? Maybe that's the case. Okay, I'm giving them a little bit of time. But if there are people out there who turn their nose up or are going to take a lot more convincing, I really don't blame them either.
All I know is I watch every Raw, and I watch every SmackDown, and I've watched everything that Triple H has done. And is he a perfect booker? No. Is he miles better than Vince when it comes to booking long-term storylines and promoting matches and following through and building to pay-per-views? And yes, he's miles better than Vince. If you don't watch the show, then I don't want you to hear me. I don't want to hear you tell me it's the same. It's not the same. I see it. Mike sees it. Everybody that watches the show sees it. It's not the same. And the issue is not even, I'll give him a chance and then I'll decide. It's like, no, he's not getting a chance. He's not getting a chance. Not going to happen. I mean, they do not deserve any benefit of the doubt. And actually, they do. They do deserve benefit of the doubt.
And that's the thing is, we're not looking at this with rose-colored glasses on here. You know what I'm saying? And I think when you talk to a lot of other people who are kind of, plugged into things, again, it's still WWE. If there are things you don't like about WWE, the Juggernaut, there's no regime change that's going to happen. There's no programming. They're not. It's always going to be WWE. And if you just don't like it, there's a zillion and one other options for you to deal with. But if you expect them to fundamentally change, I don't care who the booker or the head of creative is, that's not going to happen. They're just at a different realm right now. And AEW is still a wrestling company. And yes, I know everything's a sports, everything's an entertainment thing. WWE, fundamentally how they do business and all that other stuff is not going to change. It is certainly not going to change overnight, and probably not for decades.
Well, what else have we got here? Alejo Del Vikingo was going to make his AEW debut on Dynamite this week, but he was not available, and that is how Commander got the shot. Commander is not under contract to AEW.
I'm baffled.
And according to Dave, he is very much on the radar of WWE. So we'll see what happens with old Commander. He's going somewhere soon, one way or the other.
I'm shocked. I'm not going to say I'm shocked, but both Aries and Commander have been on a lot of people's radars for quite some time. And I know Aries is in a situation with MLW right now with his contract, but with Commander, it's like, even some sort of limited contract, I'm really surprised you put him out there and showcase him like that. I guess you really don't lose anything at the end of the day. It just really surprised me because, again, he would be perfect to have at your disposal for Ring of Honor or for New Japan co-produced shows or for anything with AAA. I mean, he's obviously, you saw him. He's pretty damn good.
Also got Eddie Kingston debuting for Ring of Honor, so that's the storyline. He has quit AEW, allegedly, and he has jumped to Ring of Honor, and he is challenge champion Claudio Castagnoli. He made the challenge on TV this week following his world title defense against AR Fox. He said, I promised Jon Moxley I would not fight Claudio in AEW, but this is not AEW. Claudio ignored him. So we will see where this goes, but Supercard of Honor is probably a pretty good bet, everybody. So that Supercard of Honor takes place March 31st, so he's out of AEW at least for a while here, and I guess we'll see if he ends up winning the title or not. If he wins the title, he's obviously going to be there for a while. So that's the update on old Eddie Kingston.
So you're going to be in town for that, correct?
Yeah, I guess I probably will be.
Because, the last time that we had Eddie Kingston on this show, it got a little bit of attention, and I can just imagine if you two were to meet up and maybe even get Claudio in the same place, you, being the mediator between those two men, could be some fine radio and video.
Well, I'll have to find out when I'm flying in for all that stuff. What is that, going to be a Thursday show, Friday show? I'm going to try to go to Supercard of Honor. How about that?
I like it.
All right, let's look at some of the text messages here. 425-780-7566 is the phone number. 425-76... What is this? The problem is we are seeing Brock versus Omos, which feels like a Vince thing. So his lurking presence may caution people to trust WWE, I guess, even less.
Here's the thing, guys, and I'm sorry, let me jump in on this first. Does Logan Paul and Seth Rollins seem like a WWE thing? Or a Vince thing?
Well, it's a WWE
Brock
thing.
and Omos? I mean, it's a WrestleMania thing. WWE, as I just mentioned before, is not going to fundamentally change. Triple H was the one. It's not like he didn't, say anything. He got in the casket and said, I screwed her brains out. We've seen some of Paul's comedy over the years. Sure, it may not be as fart and burp-based as Vince's is, but he likes to be immature. We are going to have things in WWE that are just WWE. And if you don't want to watch it, don't watch it. But you know what? Brock and Omos would take place in the Boardwalk and GCW if they had a chance to pull it off. It's not like WWE be the only ones to pull off that spectacle if given the opportunity to.
Well, you know what else, everybody? And it's going to make some people mad, but I'm just going to tell you the truth. WWE has been and remains the largest and most successful wrestling organization on earth since 1998. 2008, 2018, that's 25 years. For 25 years, they have been the biggest and the most successful pro wrestling company on the planet. And really, they were, you could go back even further if you take out those couple of years where they struggled and WCW did well. So really, I mean, it's been like, forever. I mean, you're allowed to not like it, okay? But why would they fundamentally change? Like, there are things that they could do better, obviously. But, someone brought up the McDonald's analogy here. Well, McDonald's is the most successful, restaurant. It doesn't mean they're the best restaurant. You're absolutely positively right. However, why would McDonald's fundamentally change? I mean, it wouldn't even make any sense for them to fundamentally change.
If you change the president of operations, let's pretend that's what it is with Triple H and Vince. If you remove the president of operations and he's only this title now, and you have this guy running it, you're not going to fundamentally change everything. You just hope the guy that's in place right now, who would be Triple H, can do a hell of a lot better job than that other guy.
If you're looking at McDonald's, you could say, hey, these burgers are whatever. We're going to change them to grass-fed burgers. Well, hey, that's a better burger, but you're not fundamentally changing it where, well, now we're only going to sell fish, or, we're going to try and be more. Actually, McDonald's for a while tried to be more high-end, and it didn't work out very well. It's a very, very successful business, and WWE is a very, very successful business. And yeah, there are things about WWE that are way better now. Thank God that Vince is gone. Like, we can actually book storylines and follow through with them. You may not like where they go, but at least they're following through with them, and they announce matches and deliver them, and they don't false advertise anymore. I mean, there are a lot of positive changes, but they're not going to fundamentally change. They're not going to start booking or running their promotion like New Japan. It would be foolish to do that. They still should be WWE. They could be better at being WWE, but they need to be WWE. It's a winning formula. Back in a moment, Observer Live.
I mean, I've been a fan of boxing for a long time. Never did I ever think about boxing personally, but I was at Creator Clash 1. Nathan Barnett, a.k.a. Dad, was the first fight of Creator Clash 1, and he asked me to be in his corner. And at the time, I didn't realize how big the event was going to be, but I was excited to watch him fight in his first fight. And when I went and saw like how well he did and how excited everyone was, like all the influencers that fought on Creator Clash 1 had a really good time, and the crowd had a great time. And when iDubbbz, Ian, and Anissa were booking Creator Clash 2, putting it together, I think they were looking for someone to fight Harley from Epic Mealtime, who won his first fight in Creator Clash 1. And since we'd met, they just asked me if I'd be willing to fight. And I said, yeah. I actually said, yeah, but I don't want to fight Harley because we're friends. And then he said he would fight me. And then I was like, well, if he wants to fight me, then sure, I guess we can fight.
You can't back down now. If he said yes, you kind of got to say yes too, right?
He said, like, I was like, bro, I don't know if we should fight each other. And then he's like, might be too epic, bro. And I was like, what? The Epic Mealtime just texted me epic? Okay. So that's kind of how it all came together. And now April 15th, in about 2 months, we're going to punch each other until one of us can't stand up.
Do you feel you have added pressure where like you can't lose?
Yeah. I mean, there's that, but then there's also my wife who said, like, if I lose, expect to get knocked out twice on April 15th because she's going to knock me out for losing.
Stop it. Stop it. That's amazing and terrifying at the same time.
But not.
Okay, so how are you? Are you nervous? Are you excited? Are you anxious? What are the emotions?
Do all those things. It's like similar to a wrestling match. But I haven't had 4,000 boxing fights like I have wrestling matches. This is gonna be the first time that I've boxed. I training with Josh Barnett, who's obviously a former UFC champion, MMA legend. And when I asked him to train me, he just said, "Sure, John, I'll train you, but just so you know, boxing is your worst thing." And I was like, well, he's not wrong. I was like, yeah, Josh, I know it's my worst thing. That's why I need you to train me. And I've gotten a lot better. I still have a long way to go, but it's been really fun, not just learning a new skill, but like being kind of under the gun and like being forced to learn. And I forced myself by putting pressure on myself by taking this fight, which I feel like is kind of a fun thing to have, like this crazy like goal, and it's this date hanging over my head, which makes me extra motivated to train every day.
Having a hearty LOL over this tweet here from Tony Khan. This is one of the best weekends of the year, he says. AEW Revolution Sunday in San Francisco, plus Friday night Rampage, then Countdown to Revolution tonight on TNT. 2023 will be the biggest year yet for AEW. I have major announcements coming soon that are important to AEW and our fans. What's the best gimmick? AEW major announcements or the NXT parking lot?
Oh, well, you know what? The NXT parking lot always pays off. There's always somebody laid out or kidnapped or something like that. Sometimes with these announcements, you don't get everything that you want. So who knows what everybody's working their minds into right now, wondering what it's going to be.
Bert says, LOL, the YouTube chat after you responded to my text regarding Brock and Omos. It's madness in there. Oh, I wish I were there. But I'm not. Any plans to review Ring of Honor Weekly Television on Bryan and Vinny? It seems more relevant than Rampage, at least going into Supercard. I will consider that. Consider that. But, I can't watch it this week at this rate, but we'll see what happens. What are the odds Omos wins? Will us homosexuals have our day in court? Do not expect to have your day in court. I don't think he's going to be winning that match against Brock Lesnar. Dude, he didn't even beat Strowman. Right?
What's his finisher? What's Omos's finisher?
He does that he lifts him up and throws him on the ground thing.
See, that would be, if that was more impressive than Brock F5ing him, then maybe Omos would win. But I think the Brock F5 will win out.
All right, everybody, we got to wrap it up. I am on my way to Rampage here in a while. I'll be back later on tonight with Dave, Saturday night with Dave, Sunday with Dave, all WrestlingObserver.com, video.f4wonline.com. Thanks, Mike, as always.
Dave, all the time.
Callers and listeners, Twitch homies. Yeah, even you Twitch homies. We'll talk to you next time, Wrestling Observer Live.